It's a crisp Tuesday morning in Seattle, and Sarah Chun is running late for the biggest presentation of her career. She's a software engineer at a growing tech startup, and today she's deploying a major update to their payment processing system. Thousands of customers depend on it. Millions of dollars flow through it daily. But Sarah is in a hurry, and that checklist her team created, it seems like unnecessary bureaucracy right now. This is the story of what happened next and why checklists exist in the first place. The morning everything changed, Sarah had been coding until 3 a.m. the night before, making final tweaks to the new system. She was confident. She knew her code inside and out. When she arrived at the office that morning, coffee in hand, she pulled up the deployment checklist on her screen. 23 items. It looked tedious. I've done this 100 times, she thought, scrolling past the first few items. Besides, I'm already late. She clicked through the deployment process, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Within 15 minutes, the new system was live. Sarah leaned back in her chair, relieved. She'd made it just in time for the morning stand-up meeting. But 10 minutes later, her phone started buzzing. Then her Slack exploded with messages. Then her manager appeared at her desk, face pale. The payment system was down, completely offline. The cascade effect. What Sarah did, and know what she would have known if she'd followed the checklist, was that the new code required a specific database configuration change. Item number 7 on that list she'd skipped. Without it, the system couldn't process transactions. Within minutes, thousands of customers were unable to complete purchases. Within Hana, the company had lost over $50,000 in revenue, but the financial loss was just the beginning. Customer service lines lit up with frustrated callers. Social media filled with complaints. News of the outage spread to tech blogs. Investor confidence wavered. The company's reputation, carefully built over 5 years, took a serious hit in a single morning, all because of a checklist that seemed too boring to follow. Here's the thing about checklists. They're not created because people are they're created because humans are human. Our brains are incredible at creative thinking but they're surprisingly unreliable at remembering every single step in a complex process, especially under pressure. Dr. Atul Gawande, a surgeon and public health researcher, wrote an entire book about this phenomenon called The Checklist Manifesto. He discovered that even the most skilled professionals, pilots, engineers make preventable mistakes when they rely solely on memory. The solution isn't more training or intelligence. It's better systems. It's checklists. Consider aviation. Before every single flight, pilots complete a pre-flight checklist. These pilots have thousands of hours of experience. They've flown the same aircraft hundreds of times, yet they still use the checklist every single time, without exception. Why? Because the consequences of missing even one small item can be catastrophic. The same principle applies across industries. Construction sites use safety checklists. Hospitals use surgical checklists. Restaurants use food safety checklists. Software companies use deployment checklists. So why do people ignore checklists? Research reveals several common reasons. Overconfidence. When we're skilled at something, we tend to overestimate our ability to remember everything. Sarah had deployed code many times successfully. Each success made her more confident, which paradoxically increased her risk of making a mistake. Chimney pressure when we're rushed. Checklists feel like obstacles rather than tools. Sarah was lean and stressed. The checklist seemed like it would slow her down, when in reality, following it would have saved hours of crisis management. Familiarity bias. The more familiar a task becomes, the less attention we pay to it. This is why experienced drivers sometimes can't remember parts of their commute. Their brain goes on autopilot. With repetitive tasks, We assume we'll remember everything because we've done it before. Perceived inefficiency. Some people view checklists as bureaucratic red tape that stifles innovation and speed. They see them as tools for beginners, not experts. This mindset is dangerous because it fundamentally misunderstands what checklists are for. The recovery, Sarah's story, has a silver lining. After 3 intense hours, the team identified the problem, implemented the fix, and restored the system. Sarah worked around the clock to make things right. She personally reached out to affected customers. She took full responsibility for the error. More importantly, she learned a profound lesson about humility and process. The checklist wasn't there because her managers thought she was it was there because even the best professionals need systematic safeguards. In the weeks that followed, Sarah became the most vocal advocate for checklists on her team. She helped refine their deployment procedures, making them more user-friendly while ensuring critical steps couldn't be skipped. She shared her story with new hires as a cautionary tale. Lessons for everyone. Sarah's experience teaches us several valuable lessons. Expertise doesn't eliminate the need for a checklist, it makes them more important. The more confident you become, the more vulnerable you are to overconfidence errors. Checklists are not about doubting your abilities. They're about creating systems that work even when you're tired, stressed, or distracted. They are about respect for the complexity of what you're doing. Time spent following a checklist is never wasted. The few minutes Sarah would have spent on that checklist would have prevented hours of crisis management and thousands of dollars in losses. Creating a culture that values checklists saves organizations from preventable failures. Companies that treat checklists as optional are companies that will eventually face preventable crises. The bigger picture today. Sarah keeps a quote on her desk: "Discipline equals freedom." It is a reminder that following structured processes does unlimit her. It liberates her to focus on creative problem solving because the routine risks are managed. The next time you're tempted to skip that pre-flight checklist, that safety protocol, or that deployment procedure, remember Sarah's story. Remember that checklists exist not because you're not smart enough, but because you're human, and humans, no matter how skilled, need systems that catch our mistakes before they become disasters. Because in the end, the question isn't whether you're capable enough to work without a checklist.